All right, joining us live on the phone right now is Connecticut Congressman Joe Courtney, who is in Washington, D.C. Representative Courtney, first of all, are you safe? And tell us what
Yes,
you're seeing
I
and
am.
hearing.
Thank you for asking.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of us, we were, following the COVID protocols to keep the density on the floor pretty light, and so we were watching C-SPAN, on C-SPAN from our offices. So, but with a bunch of my colleagues right now in sort of a collection area to stay in touch with the sergeant at arms, and some of them had some pretty harrowing experiences on the floor there. I mean, it's just, never imagined that kind of stuff would ever happen.
Yeah, when you were watching, you must have been shocked to see people coming on to the floor. What was it like watching those images?
Well, it's obscene, in my opinion. The chamber in the House is, in my opinion, a very special place. It's where Franklin Roosevelt, spoke after Pearl Harbor, and Dwight Eisenhower, and John F. Kennedy, and Ronald Reagan, and it's really sort of the place where our country has come together in times of crisis, and to see it defiled the way it was today by people who just literally crashed their way through the doors. Totally disrespectful to the Capitol Police, who are just doing their job, trying to keep people safe, and then holding up the Speaker's mace, which is a symbol of the legislative branch going back to England. This is really obscene. That's the only word I can think of, and it obviously, I think it's going to shake a lot of confidence that people overseas have about us, because I think have always been viewed as a bastion of a stable democracy, and political violence like this is just the total antithesis of what's defined this country for hundreds of years.
Yeah, I know Boris Johnson just tweeted about what he was seeing, if you're talking about international reaction to that. We are watching protesters leaving the Capitol. We're looking at live pictures as we're interviewing you right now, and we're hoping that the worst is over. And we know that your colleague, Congressman Himes, has tweeted that you guys are going to be allowed to go back to the floor. He says the House will return to business shortly. We will do our job. We will do what the Constitution dictates, and we will not let those who would tear down our democracy cause anything more than a pause in the proceedings. Do you think it's calmed down? And tell us what you're hearing about business returning on the House floor.
So right now the sergeant at arms is really the quarterback in terms of making that decision about security, and it may take a while. I mean, we may be looking at another couple hours before we get the all clear signal. But I will tell you, the plan was that we were going to go until this got done. Even before the invasion, and I think people are even more determined than ever that that's going to be the plan. We're going to not allow this kind of outrageous behavior derail what the Constitution has mandated, and which Congresses have followed every 4 years in this country. So if it goes till tomorrow or even Friday, so be it. We've got to get this done, and to me, that's the best rebuttal to this kind of just hooliganism that, again, as I said, is the opposite of a democratic way of life.
Were you surprised that Congressman Himes had brought this up when he was talking to CNN? And I mean, I'm surprised looking at the images. We were talking about this before, how vulnerable the Capitol is. I mean, it's kind of insane that this was able to happen.
Yeah, I mean, look at, when I came in this morning, some of the protesters or demonstrators were starting to gather. I mean, a lot of us have been, at events, political events where, emotions are running high, and, they had the gates up. They had people outside the building, but there's no question, that they've miscalculated in terms of just the overwhelming and brazen behavior of, the demonstrators who, broke windows to get their way in. I mean, that I think is going to be, the after action report, where there's no question there's just going to be a different way to keep the place secure. It's a sad statement, because I think, everyone's trying to balance freedom of speech and the right to assemble not have too heavy a hand. But clearly today there was a miscalculation, and I do think that the House Administration Committee and the Sergeant at Arms Office is going to do a huge review of all this and make some changes.
Yeah, I know we were talking about the UK Prime Minister just a little while ago, and I know you are involved with defense there. That he tweeted, "Disgraceful scenes in the U.S. Congress. The United States stands for democracy around the world, and it is now vital that there should be a peaceful and orderly transfer of power." I mean, this is going to have ripple effects not only in our country but overseas and how we deal with other countries.
No, there's no question, and there's. Boris Johnson, I think his sentiments were friendly, but there's definitely other countries in the world, like Russia and China, and who will pounce on this as an example of our policies to support human rights and promote democracy are somehow tarnished and undercut, and it's a competitive world out there in terms of trying to make sure that rule of law and international norms are followed, and that peaceful ways to resolve disputes occur. And this obviously really, I think, shakes up the leadership role that the U.S. has traditionally had, really since the end of World War II. So President Biden is going to have his hands full, but I think for a lot of us, this episode is going to, I think, increase our determination to really change that posture that we've been living through for the last 4 years, which, really, I think, is part of this, which is that this very coarse, transactional attitude about, government and which, again, really, I think, eats away at the type of ideals that has always been a part of this country and what's so attractive to so many people around the world.
Yeah, and no doubt there. And also you're going to have to deal with the fact that, President Trump isn't going anywhere, and he has a large following. And so while the president-elect Joe Biden will be in office, this isn't the last we're going to hear from President Trump. Congressman Courtney, thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I said that's true, but I will say this. Anyone who watched Mitch McConnell's speech today, or
yes.
I retweeted Liz Cheney, in
Yep.
terms of what we're doing. I mean, really, there's actually been some pretty impressive, gutsy folks on the other side of the aisle that I think understand that, the peaceful transition of power, like Boris Johnson said, we have got to protect that at all costs.
Yeah, we know that your colleague, Congressman Larson, was talking about Senator Mitch McConnell's speech there on the Senate floor. All right, well, we hope that you are safe, and we appreciate your time and calling in and keeping us updated.
Great. Thanks, Jen.
All right, we are going back to live pictures.